Another win in the books for the Texas A&M Aggies. Let's break it down.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are Locked On the Texas A&M Aggies. I am your host, Matt Galatzan, publisher of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Harrison, Texas A&M is coming off another solid win over the Utah State Aggies this week. They won 44-20 in College Station. I think that we're both pretty pleased by what we saw on film from over the weekend. It seemed like they cleaned a lot of things up, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. There was some stuff on offense that I really liked as well. Some guys continued to show out. So we're going to break this game down real quick and give you guys our biggest takeaways. Then we're going to get into the new top 25 poll, and we're going to recap some of the weekend in college football. And we're going to give you a little bit of a brief preview of Texas A&M and Notre Dame, the monster matchup in South Bend this weekend. But first, Harrison, we loved what we saw from the Aggies this weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, and it further hit home Saturday. The biggest thing for me when I turned on the tape was once again the team speed. I mean, these guys have playmakers on offense. I think Marcel Reed looks comfortable in the pocket. Matt, the athletes on the field just continue to stand out to me, and I get it. It's Utah State. I know last weekend they played UTSA. Like, they're going to have better athletes. They're going to have bigger guys. They're going to have more talented guys. But A&M looks like they were on another level compared to Utah State this weekend, especially offensively. Matt, I am really beginning to buy in the stock of the downfield passing game for Texas A&M. I love what we saw from Mario Craver. I love what we see from KC Concepcion. Terry Bussey got himself in the end zone this weekend. I'm really liking what I saw. And then you add that to the run game, which I thought their wide zone run game this weekend, I think it gets the best out of the offensive line. It gets the best out of these running backs. It allows them to read the offensive line rather than to read the butts of the guys and then go find the hole and get out in space. Really love what I saw. And I don't think you could have put a better, game together. Obviously, you might want to shut out or you might want to drop 70 like some other people did this weekend. But I don't think you could be that upset in terms of what A&M looked like as they head into one of the biggest games of the season.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start for Texas A&M. It was 10-6 at the end of the first quarter. But overall, I think you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. That zone running game really accentuates these running backs' strengths with their ability to make a cut and go. So I was extremely pleased with the running game overall. Last week against UTSA, I was very underwhelmed with it. And this week, I mean, they just really dominated on the ground. 45 carries, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Moss had 68 yards on 10 carries with a touchdown. Marcel Reed had 66 yards on 10 carries with a touchdown. Ruben Owens averaged 5.7 yards per carry, 7 carries for 40 yards. Jamarion Morrow got his first action of the year, 4 carries, 32 yards. EJ Smith broke a 11-yard run. Amari Daniels also got involved. So a lot of guys getting involved in the ground game. And you talk about the passing game and buying stock in the downfield passing game. I'm buying stock in Marcel Reed. I bought stock in Marcel Reed before the season started. He once again had another pretty impressive performance, 19 of 28 passing, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, no picks. He's got 7 touchdown passes on the year. Could he have been a little bit cleaner? Sure. Could he have been a little bit more accurate? Sure. But he got the ball to his guys in space. He got the ball to his guys downfield. And even Miles O'Neill hit a touchdown today on Saturday with the passing game. So I was really pleased with that. But I think that my biggest takeaway from this entire game for Texas A&M, the one that I was most impressed with, the one that I think means the most and what they needed to accomplish this week, the run defense. They got absolutely gashed by UTSA last week. This week, they really cleaned it up. They held Utah State, who is a primarily rushing team, to 78 yards on 35 carries. That's 2.2 yards per carry. Miles Davis had 50 yards on the ground on 10 carries. 30 of that came on 1 run. So outside of that, 30-yard gain, you're talking about, 34 carries for 48 or 34 carries for 48 yards. It's hard to do math live on air, ladies and gentlemen, but that I thought was fantastic by Texas A&M. And then you talk about the pass rush too, that really got going as well.
Yeah, I mean, Cashius, what we talked about last week on the show after the UTSA game, we said going into the Notre Dame game, one of the things we wanted to see out of this defense was we wanted to see them start getting home, but not only getting home, getting the quarterback on the ground. And they did that this week. I mean, there was 3 plays in this football game, 3 defensive plays in a row that Cashius Howell just destroyed Bryson Barnes and the Utah State offensive line. I get it. Say what you want about the level of competition, but great players dominate on those fields, on those, against these teams. And Cashius Howell did that. I mean, people put out the clip. I wish I clipped it. He beat him with speed. He beat him with a nasty ghost pass rush move, which is where you basically you don't even hand fight. You just get there, you run to the spot, shows a little dip, gets around the corner, just annihilates the quarterback, beats him with an inside swim move, throws him out the way, throws him out the club, as people say. 3 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, 4 total tackles for Cashius Howell. Absolute monster game, and he continues to be talked about by NFL draft, analysts. Matt, there's people saying that this guy, if he continues to play like this for the rest of this year, the Aggies are going to have another top edge rusher go off the board in the NFL draft come April.
Yeah,
speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that happening for sure if he keeps this up. I don't know if he's going to get 3 sacks per game, but if he keeps continuing to put pressure on the quarterback and get some sacks, I think he's going to be very, very happy come NFL draft time. 9 tackles for loss for Texas A&M on defense as well in total. You love to see that. 6 sacks as a team. 3 of those obviously came from Howell, but Scooby Williams got in there. Marco Jones, the freshman, got in there. We talked about him a lot. Salmon Pimba, another guy that we talked about in the offseason. He got himself in there and got a sack as well. So you like Cashius Howell getting there, but you also have other guys contributing to those sack numbers, which is great. Quick note before we head to our next break, though. There were some injury concerns in this game. Marcel Reed went down. He was able to walk off the field under his own power, which you never like to see out of your starting quarterback, especially the week before a major showdown with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But the good news is today, after the game and today as well, Mike Elko came out and said Marcel Reed is going to be good to go. He's fine. No lingering concerns with that injury. So the Aggies are going to have their starting quarterback against Notre Dame. And it seems like he's going to be ready to go, not just with his arm, but with his legs, which is a massive, massive deal for Texas A&M in this matchup.
Yeah, let this be the lesson to Marcel. Don't ever dive head first. Slide, brother, like you would in second base or third base. Do not dive shoulder first unless you're trying to make a play across the goal line. But even at that point, unless it's 4th and goal and this is it, this is for the game, don't go down in the open field on your shoulder. Don't risk it. There's no need to take the hits, the unnecessary hits. Go down, get some yards, go down, get out of bounds, do whatever you have to do. I know Josh Allen has made a career out of just taking some vicious hits and not getting out of bounds. But with how dynamic you are as an athlete, you don't want to see you on the sideline for a number of weeks because you took a hit instead of getting out of bounds. So good news on that front from Marcel Reed and for the Texas A&M offense. Although you did see Miles O'Neill came in there and threw that 40-yard, 50-yarder to Mario Craver. I mean, just put tremendous. It was actually a 72-yard to Mario Craver. Absolute bolt. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful throw. The Aggies do not want to go into South Bend or any other place this season without Marcel Reed on the football field. They're a better team with him. He showed that. Matt, I thought this weekend was a great reminder of just how dynamic he was with his legs. We saw him scramble a little bit versus UTSA, but this guy was getting out in space. This guy was pulling it and running it. Not only was he running it, picking up yardage, but he was making guys miss as he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, really great stuff all around from the Aggies this past week. Marcel Reed, the receivers, the defense, everything really came together the way you wanted to see it come together before your big-time matchup with Notre Dame. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're excited about the matchup this weekend. We'll continue to break it down as the week goes on. We got plenty of time to get into that matchup. It's going to be one of the biggest of the college football weekend. So we're really looking forward to that one. But let's take our first break, Harrison. When we come back, we're going to talk about the new AP Top 25 poll, where Texas A&M sits, where Notre Dame sits, some movers, some shakers, and really give our breakdown of how we feel about this week's poll. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25 a ticket. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download the Game Time app today. Well, Harrison, that might have been the smoothest ad read I've ever done on this show. So let's keep the momentum going into this into this segment. We had a new top 25 poll release this week. A lot of moving this weekend. After a pretty exciting weekend of college football, it wasn't the slate that we had last weekend with all the major primetime matchups, but we had some good ones. We made our picks last week, so we had Oregon and Oklahoma State, Iowa State versus Iowa, Ole Miss and Kentucky, Mizzou and Kansas, SMU and Baylor, Oklahoma and Michigan. I think we did okay on some of these. Some of them kind of broke our hearts, but it is what it is. We did better this weekend, I think, than we did last weekend, at least, which is saying something.
That was a low bar.
It was an extremely low bar. But Texas A&M, after their win over Utah State, they jump up 3 spots to the number 16 spot in the country. The biggest mover on the week was Tennessee, who jumped 7 spots after their win. Michigan drops all the way down to number 8. They're by far the biggest dropper. Utah is all the way up to number 20 as well. Oklahoma jumps up 5 spots to number 13 after their dominant win over Michigan. I thought they left a lot of meat on the bone in that game too. So, and Florida State is now a top 10 team. Texas stays where they are at number 7. Georgia drops 2 spots after a kind of an inconsistent outing against Austin Peay. And Oregon is into the top 5 at number 4. Overall, I think that this poll is pretty solid. I still don't think Illinois is a top 10 team, despite the fact that they beat Duke pretty handily. But overall, I like where the Aggies are sitting too. You now have you have Notre Dame at number 8, Texas A&M at number 16. This is going to be a massive matchup between the number 8 and number 16 teams in the country. But overall, we kind of like where this poll sits.
Yeah, I do as well. I think for the Aggies perspective, I think you're probably right where you want to be. There will be arguments about, I guess, in the coming weeks as the Aggies get into the meat of their schedule in terms of who should be ahead of them, who should not. Tennessee jumping up 7 spots after dropping 70 on East Tennessee State might be. I mean, look, they're going to have their first test this weekend. Same thing with Georgia. That will work itself out for those two teams. I'm not sure how you jump up 7 spots after you beat East Tennessee State, even if you did drop or close to 100 in that game. We'll see there. Matt, I think in terms of, we talk about the AP poll, again, I know people have the constant grudge about it. It's not as meaningful as it once was with the playoffs now and the selection committee. But I think the one problem with the AP poll that continues to persist well into the season is the preseason narratives continue to, I guess, inflate these rankings as you get further and further into the season. To me, I don't know about you. I think Ohio State's the consensus number one. I think it should be that way. I, for one, am not a Penn State at number two. I think that honor needs to go to LSU, even though they didn't necessarily drop 60 or 70 on Louisiana Tech. They have one of the more impressive wins in the country, beating Clemson, despite how Clemson performed versus Troy this weekend. Yeah, you mentioned the slate wasn't great. We can all admit the slate wasn't great. But if you're on a football team, if you're on a Power 5 and SEC team, don't be sleeping on these G5 matchups. You sleep on the G5 matchups, you might get got. And a team on the Aggies schedule got this weekend. So I guess don't take things lightly. There's more football to be played here. Don't be thinking it's a week off for you two players.
Yeah, I mean, there were some teams that kind of underperformed to expectations this week. LSU was certainly one of them. Georgia was certainly one of them. Talk about the Florida Gators dropping one to UCF or USF at home. Major disappointment for Florida there. You got to think that Billy Napier is kind of on the ropes now. Oregon looked incredibly impressive against Oklahoma State. That game went about as we expected it to. Or at least I expected it to. I thought they were going to absolutely boat race Oklahoma State. Texas looked good in spurts. They ended up handling San Jose State. Arch Manning looked a lot better, but they still have a lot to clean up. Clemson struggled with Troy, Mississippi State upsets Arizona State, which is another big time upset. I would expect to see Mississippi State, if they win again this week, to make some top 25 noise. Maybe not get in there after beating an Alcorn State this weekend, but that's if they get to 4-0, they're going to be a top 25 team by the time they get to SEC play. South Carolina looked really good against South Carolina State for the most part. The Michigan and Oklahoma game was another one that we're going to get into after the break, but overall, a lot happening this weekend. That was kind of surprising, kind of boring in some games, kind of exciting in others. We'll get into that more in the break. But as far as the polls go, I think A&M is sitting in the perfect spot right now. You're taking care of business. You're 2-0. You don't have too many expectations in front of you. You really have nothing to lose this weekend going into the South Bend to take on a number 10 team or a top 10 team, number 8, Notre Dame. And that's really, I think, the spot that you want to be in going into this matchup. You're the underdog. You're the one with with nothing to lose. You're the one that has a free shot to really make noise this weekend. And I think that Texas A&M is going to thrive with that kind of, that kind of mentality behind them this weekend of being the underdog. Nobody's going to pick them for the most part across the country. I think they're going to beat Notre Dame this weekend. We're going to get into that later in the week. I've been saying that all off season, but for the most part, I think by and large, the narrative is going to be that A&M has their backs up against the wall, where in reality is they really don't have anything to lose this weekend.
Yeah, Matt, I think when you get down the line, when we get to January, when we get to February, I think this is going to be the week that you look back on and say, hey, here's the turning point. Here's the flashpoint for the season. Because like you said, right now, they're the underdog going into this matchup. They really don't have all that much to lose. Like, yeah, you can go on the road. You can lose this game. Doesn't really affect you in the grand scheme of things in terms of playoffs. Like, if you go out and win other games, you go beat some ranked opponents later down the line, you can still get into the playoffs. You can still get into the dance, even if you lose this game. But I guess this is where we figure out what this A&M team looks like. This is going to be the turning point. If they win this game, we're going to find out how they handle success. How do they handle beating a top 10 team, maybe getting ranked inside the top 10? How do they handle going on the road? How do they handle facing other top-ranked teams in college football? And if they lose this game, how do you respond to that loss? How do you deal with the adversity? How do you avoid the, here we go again scenario where you lose 4 out of your last 5 games or wherever it was last year? Like, how do you respond to that? This, I think, to me, this is the turning point in the year. This is the crucial week where we look back and say, hey, this is why A&M had a good season. It started right here. Or, hey, A&M was disappointing. It started right here this week.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, we're going to break down that matchup ad nauseum throughout the week. So stick with Locked On Aggies throughout the week, and we'll get into that. When we come back, Harrison and I are going to get into the action of the college football weekend. We made 6 picks this weekend, and we're going to break those down. They were the biggest games on the schedule for the most part. So stick with us after this break, and we will be right back. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Game Cap. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit in the front row of your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. I'm wearing one right now, this sweet vintage Texas A&M Aggies circle hat. The best all-time hat design that there has ever been, in my opinion. You can get these right now. They've brought them back. They're fantastic. They fit great. They feel great. And these aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use code Locked On, you will get your vintage hat for just $16.99. Head to thegamecaps.com, grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design, and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount. Because legends wear the game. All right, Harrison, it's time to face the music. We made some picks this weekend. We made 6 total, and we're going to break those down. Last week, your fearless leader, your host, was 0-5 on the weekend. I did not do well. I missed on just about every single aspect of those games that you could possibly imagine. The only one I came close on was LSU and Clemson, and LSU ended up dominating that one in the second half. So it was rough. Harrison was 1-4 last week, so not much better, but he's got the lead right now. So let's break this down. Let's see what we did over the weekend. Let's see how these matchups went. First of all, Oregon, Oklahoma State. That was a minus 29.5 spread when we locked it in. Oregon ended up winning 69-3. Nice job by the Oregon Ducks. I picked Oregon. I got that one. You picked Oklahoma State and missed. So I got one back on you there. But, man, what a throttling that Oregon put on Oklahoma State, huh?
Yeah, we talked about Billy Napier being on the hot seat. Like, flash forward a year later after he was given that letter of endorsement by Scott Strickland after their loss to Miami. He's going to need one again, and I don't think he's going to get it this time. How much longer does Mike Gundy last at Oklahoma State? I mean, you basically had your team beat on a Tuesday last week because you decided to open your mouth and talk about the unfairness of what Oregon was spending, or not. I mean, he wasn't calling it unfair, but he was taking a subtle shot like, hey, you're spending $40 million. I have no chance type deal. Then you come out on Saturday and you said, oh, people take it out of context. That's not what I meant. I wasn't trying to insult them. Like, bro, you just got beat like a beat dog. Don't try and come out here and change your messaging. You messed up. You got your team beat. Your team wasn't prepared for a really good Oregon team, and you got your butt handed to you. I think, Matt, let this be a lesson to the coaches. Maybe don't open your mouth and give these coaches any extra reason for motivation, because most of the time it doesn't end up well unless you're prime. Then sometimes you're able to stand on your business, as he did versus Colorado State.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got into Iowa State. We locked the spread in at minus 3.5.
Bad beat right here, Matt.
Bad beat right there. Iowa State ends up winning, but they win 16-13. Do not cover the spread. Disappointing outcome for us. But the Cyclones won. Over a team that just doesn't really have any offense.
Should have took the money line. Let that be the lesson here. I'm still a Rocco Beck believer. I think Rocco can sling it. I like Rocco. I like the Cyclones. The Cyhawk Bowl, I don't want to say it delivered this year. I think the over or the under did deliver in this matchup, continuing that streak here in college football. But, man, really bad beat here. Was really feeling – I mean, Matt, this was one of my more confident picks of the weekend. I thought Iowa State was going to go in there and beat the Hawkeye out of them for 4 quarters. And maybe not like, 30 or 69-3, but I thought this was going to be like a 2-score, 10-point, 14-point football game. That's not what turned out to be.
Yeah, Iowa can still play defense. Who would have thought? Still can't move the ball very well, though. Okay, then we got into Ole Miss and Kentucky. Ole Miss looked like they had every opportunity to cover this game. I picked the Rebels to cover -10.5. You picked Kentucky. This is the one that I was least confident about going into the weekend out of all my picks. You proved to be right. And Kentucky hung around. Ole Miss took care of business. Austin Simmons, their starting quarterback, got injured. He's supposed to be fine heading into this weekend's matchup against Arkansas. But Ole Miss got the win, and that's what counts for the Rebels.
If I can count on one thing, it's going to be that Mark Scoops is going to do everything in his power to cover the spread. He may not try and win, but he will cover the spread. Georgia, I think in 22, got a late field goal to cover the spread versus Georgia. He did it here again, got his field goal, got his cover, got his parlay to cover. Thank you, Mark Scoops, for covering. Sorry, Lane Kiffin, you disappointed the bettors this week, including our fearless leader, Matt Galatzan over here.
Yeah. It's typical Ole Miss football. Make it close against the teams that you're supposed to beat into the ground. So I'm not surprised by that one at all. Missouri and Kansas was our next one. I picked Mizzou. You picked Kansas. Missouri ended up covering that one. Kansas, I think is going to be okay in the Big 12, but Missouri looks like a pretty good football team right now.
Yeah, they do. Did you see the Drinkwitz post game? Did you see the post game pressers from Missouri after that game? Have you seen the clips?
I have not, but I'm sure it was entertaining.
There's a student reporter that picked against Missouri on their little pregame show during the week, and Drinkwitz called him out, said, "Hey, buddy, you were wrong. Don't do that again." And then a player said, "Yeah, that was a really dumb pick," or something like that. Called him out in the press conference. So the guy was having to eat his crow, and I guess give Missouri their props. Matt, I picked Jalen Daniels here. I rode with the guy that I thought was the better quarterback, the guy that I've seen. Should have known that the SEC apparently wants to show up in these out-of-conference games this year and win them. Good win for Bo Prabula and Eli Drinkwitz, a guy who might have a terrible idea for college football playoff expansion, but at least he can win football games.
Yeah. Bad form, Eli. Don't call it a student reporter. That's low hanging fruit there. I disagree with you there, but it's okay. He can be confident about beating a Kansas Jayhawks football team, I suppose. Last two here. We're gonna do this next one real quick. SMU just completely craps the bed against Baylor. Had a 14-point lead, blew it, ended up losing in overtime. Giving Baylor the win, but not great stuff by SMU there.
Bad beat again. Bad beat.
Yeah.
SMU had this in the bag. Terrible beat. I believe I had SMU in this game.
We both had
my
SMU
record this week.
Game.
Yeah, my record is it's bad.
Yeah, and then OU. This is one we're going to close out the show with. OU and Michigan. We both picked Oklahoma -2.5. I think this was probably the one I was most confident in going into the weekend. I knew Bryce Underwood was going to struggle in that environment, despite Dave Portnoy saying he's the best freshman quarterback of all time. John Mateer is probably your Heisman front runner right now, even though he didn't play a perfect game. Oklahoma's defense looks real, and they just took care of business. They left a lot of meat on the bone in that game, in my opinion, too. It could have been a lot worse, but OU gets the win there, and now they're sitting pretty there heading into SEC play here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I love watching John Mateer operate. Love watching him in these bigger games. He's not afraid to run it when he has to in these games. He showed that a little bit on tape at Washington State last year. I think you see the importance of continuity between a quarterback and a coordinator, even at a different program. They obviously have a different connection. They've been working together for a little bit now. They know each other, they know each other's strengths, and congrats to them on a big win. Like you said, I think Mateer's the front runner for the Heisman. I don't know how long that will be. He has a pretty big game in Dallas here in a few weeks where if you want to be a Heisman candidate, you're going to have to face that number one defense. You're going to have to look good doing it, win, lose, or draw in that one. And they really can't draw. So it's only going to be win or lose. But I guess props to the Sooners for handling business at home. Matt, I think the biggest takeaway of the weekend in the last two weekends is home field still means something in these big games. Maybe not in these sleepers. Maybe not when you get got by a G5 school. But when you have home field advantage, it is definitely worth a few points and worth a few false start penalties because if your crowd wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Mateer ran the ball 19 times for, I believe, 74 yards, maybe 78, 74 yards and 2 scores. Threw for 270 and another score. Looked absolutely dominant against Michigan. He wasn't perfect, but that was a good defense that he played against. So Oklahoma looks a lot better than they did last year. When Harrison joins me again on Wednesday, we are going to pick our games for next weekend or this coming weekend. We are going to pick Alabama, Wisconsin, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, USF, Florida, LSU, and Notre Dame and Texas A&M. So make sure that you join us on Wednesday for that one. But we'll be back tomorrow. That's gonna do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen today. But hey, it's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. Hopefully, I will be joining that show this week. I will keep you guys posted on that. It's a college football preview that only Locked On can do. Catch the College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to the podcast. Give me a follow over on Texas A&M Aggies on SI and on X at Matt Galatzan. Follow Harrison on X at Harrison Reno, and we will see you next time. I got you this week, Harrison. We're now both 3-8, so we're neck and neck.
Bring it next week, buddy.